Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 2nd of June 2025. Of course, the whole month of June is the end of financial year sales, which is good for a broadcaster like myself. I can snap up some discounted studio equipment to improve the quality of my shows for you all. We are live on the Wilms YouTube channel, the Wilms Rumble channel, and on my X account. Hello to everyone in the chat. Hello to Peak Aussieman. It's like we've come full circle. Everything's been banned and now no one cares anymore. Well, it's actually been like that, particularly in Australia, for quite a while. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where on Saturday night in the A-League Soccer Grand Final, my club, Melbourne City, defeated Melbourne Victory to win the league championship 1-0. The winning goal was scored by our Israeli international player, Jonathan Cohen. This is the goal.
Threw it out, that was a good one. Aziz Bayic went beyond Tilio, who was well marked. Here's Andreas Kuhn, City's first chance off the crossbar, and the follow-up is rifled into the goal by Jonathan Cohen. And after all that early pressure from Melbourne Victory, it is City who strike first in the grand final, thanks to their Israeli international.
What an excellent goal. He could have gotten a second, Cohen, with a free header, but the thing about soccer, as long as you score one goal more than your opponent, then you win the game. Now, after the game, Jonathan Cohen celebrated by wrapping himself in the Israeli flag. Now, Melbourne Victory supporters, they booed him at the beginning of the year. Now, I saw some vile comments on social media who believe that any team that has an Israeli on their side is horrible. He has got nothing to do with the ongoing war. He just happens to be an Israeli soccer player. Soccer is his passion, and his team captain, Aziz Bayic, who's an Australian, but is a Muslim, they obviously get along because they're professional and don't let something that they have no control over get between them. And that's why they are the champions of the A-League. Now, of course, if you watched Channel 7 or 9 News in Melbourne, you wouldn't have actually known who won. They sent their crime reporters there to report on the overzealous Victoria police presence and treated flares going off in Swan Street in Richmond like it was a 9/11 style event. They had the riot squad there. They were clearly disappointed, 7 and 9, that there was no pitch invasions or rioting. The media and police bias against soccer fans knows no bounds. There was crowd violence at the AFL the night before at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, with unhappy Hawthorn supporters brawling after their 51-point loss to Collingwood.
Go fuck yourself! Stop it! You fucking dog! Stop him too!
Now, we're Victoria Police. If that happened at the A-League Grand Final, it'd be the lead story and be called the blackest day in Australian sport. Now, 7 News, which is the host broadcaster for the AFL, their headline was "Police issue statement as disturbing vision of MCG crowd fight during a Collingwood Hawthorn clash emerges." So they didn't call that a riot. They didn't send their crime reporters to the AFL like 7 and 9 did. They didn't even send their sports reporters to cover the game. They sent their crime reporters. So Victoria Police, they described it as they were aware of a fight which broke out following an altercation between a small group about 10:30 p.m. A 32-year-old man advised police that he was assaulted but did not wish to make a statement at that time. The man was not injured during the incident, though. Thankfully, 7 News did publish a fan account who said that they witnessed this with my family and kids. It was awful. The social media account, The Saints, said crowd fights have become way too common at AFL games that it was time to separate rival supporters. This already happens at soccer. We don't need this. It happens every week. It's not even surprising anymore. It's getting out of control. People can't wait to throw punches at rival footy fans these days. It's just awful. Just have fans sit amongst their own supporters instead of this. So much better. Another fan said, I remember a time when fighting was rare at the Aussie Rules game. And I brought to you last week when I was covering the woke AFL's Sir Doug Nicholls Aboriginal round, the violence that has occurred at previous Dreamtime at the G Games between Essendon and Richmond, including a didgeridoo used as a spear and a glassing, and also an Australian Senator, Lydia Thorpe, assaulted. And don't forget, this year we've had guns smuggled in to the MCG as well. Now, to those AFL fans, and I am an AFL supporter, I'm a Brisbane Lions supporter, so I'm quite happy that that in the AFL, the Brisbane Lions are the reigning premiers, and in the A-League, my team, Melbourne City, are the reigning champions as well. Last year, we saw a goal umpire assaulted at an AFL match by a water bottle because AFL fans say, oh, our fans never assaulted a player, like happened at the Melbourne derby back at the end of 2022. Now, there were a series of unfortunate events that led into that, and Bucket Man should have gone to jail. So should have the water bottle thrower at the AFL umpire. Now, for those who say I'm engaging in whataboutism, of course I condemn all crowd violence at sports. They're a stain on the game, and particularly Melbourne Victory supporters. I mean, the equivalent of Collingwood supporters. But keep it in perspective. I was disappointed that Bernie Finn called for no crowd at the A-League because of the police resources consumed. But it didn't need to be this way. The police presence contributed to a hostile and tense atmosphere at the games. Lots of soccer fans now don't attend the A-League because of overzealous police and security guards telling them off for cheering and shouting too loudly. Let fans be fans. Also, ticket prices are way too expensive for the A-League. And there's also the reason why 7 and 9 also lay into soccer fans and provide negative coverage is because the rights are held by rival broadcaster Network 10 and Paramount, which of course is the weakest media company in Australia. There's also been maladministration of the Australian professional leagues, a lot of money wasted. That was before the tenure of the current Australian professional leagues chairman, who the name might be familiar, Stephen Conroy, of course, former communications minister in the Rudd Gillard's government. Now, Victoria Police, they had so many officers there. Most of them had nothing to do most of the time. There was a police officer who was injured throughout the night. This is what the Victoria Police put out, so they said police are disappointed with behaviour of some in the crowd in Swan Street, Richmond prior to the A-League Grand Final. And unfortunately, a police officer was assaulted and was transported to hospital with minor injuries. Of course, that is not on. Horrific. Over the course of the night, there were 11 evictions, 4 penalty notices for possession of lit fireworks, aka flares, 1 penalty notice for riders' behaviour, and 2 caution for trespassers. 1 man was arrested and interviewed and released pending summons for the alleged assault on a security officer. We continue to work with A-League stadium management and security providers following the grand final to review and address concerning behaviours. Well, you're going to do that with the AFL as well. I mean, there were 10 evictions at that game where the brawl was at the MCG, but it doesn't get the same amount of negative coverage that A-League crowd receive. Now, with all those police there for 1 arrest, it would have been a perfect night for rival youth gang members to arrange a machete fight. On Sunday morning, there was a man who was shot before crashing a stolen car in a suburban street in Melbourne. And there was a man arrested over the shooting. Police locked down 4 blocks. Now, the machete sale ban came into effect on Wednesday, but there was a last-minute surge in legal sales. I don't think any of us believe that they will stop machetes being traded amongst criminals just because Jacinta Allen has put in a ban. Now, the last known machete brandished by a youth was at a McDonald's in Tuganara, which is in Melbourne's southwest, and now round near Werribee and Wyndham Vale.
Good evening. 2 schoolboys have been arrested over a sickening machete attack on another child in Melbourne's west. The victim was held at knife point inside a disabled toilet. In the same week, new laws were enforced to keep Victorians safe.
Concerned and clearly terrified. This 15-year-old boy is trapped in a McDonald's toilet in TNE, a machete to his throat. Moments earlier, it appeared the boy was made to fight, before the other teens pulled out the blade.
Oh my gosh, it's so scary.
It's shocking. It's just shocking. It's unbelievable.
It happened on Monday, a day after gang violence erupted inside Northland Shopping Centre. The public has had enough.
It's disgusting. Like, it's honestly disgusting.
I get depressed when I see things like that, especially with young kids.
Police arrested 4 15-year-old boys. 2 have been charged. All are free and back in the community. The father of one offender contacted 7 News, saying, "My heart breaks for the victims and the trauma this will cause them. I am so deeply heartbroken to see my son act in a way that completely contradicts the values I've worked hard to instill in him." The exasperated father also claims the justice system is ineffective and says even if his son is placed in juvenile detention, it would only embolden him to continue the same behaviour. Even the police have indicated that my son is likely to face no real consequences.
We can't believe that the neighbourhood is so scary now.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
In Scotland.
Now, I think that father who spoke to the media, I think he's failed as a father as well. So he this is the thing these days. Too many parents don't take proper responsibility. They defer to the state. Well, certainly that's the trend these days for parents to give the state the task of raising their children. And obviously the faces were blurred in when of the youths in in that toilet where the machete was wielded, but you could see the skin complexion of the boy brandishing the machete, and you could understand his accent. It sounded, the voice sounded of African descent, and so did the skin color. Now, the National Socialist Network, this was early Sunday morning, they brandished a banner outside of Northland Shopping Centre, where Sunday last week, of course, the centre was placed into lockdown because of a machete duel going on. Now notice her as blurred the N-word that they put on the banner. So ban N-words, not machetes. And now they're all wearing masks, even though there's normally a few who are well-known members of National Socialist Network who appear unmasked because they're public figures, but none of them wanted to actually show their face next to a banner which brandished the N-word. I know that Jacob Hergent, he in his vlogs on his channel, which is currently not banned, uses the N-word. I noticed that Joel Davis used the other N-word, which I'm happy to use that Negro, because in my view, that's not a slur word. It's just a old school term, like back in the 60s and 70s. Negro was the common name to refer to blacks in the United States. It wasn't derogatory. In fact, politicians spoke about how we need to advance the living standards and the aspirations of the Negro population. So it was spoken about, we want to help them. But that got replaced with African American, and in between there, it seemed to be this transition from Negro aspiration and increase in living standards, and also in the quality of their life, stable families, the transition towards African American culture with rap, and which Candace Owens believes is a CIA psyop to basically keep the blacks down. Certainly there was somebody was able to basically make a switch to stop the advancement of the Negro population and usher in the decline and the degradation and the degeneracy of the African American community. Now, over in Pakenham on Saturday night, and this is, of course, the second part of the banner says, don't ban machetes. Of course, it's like it is with guns or other weapons. It's not the weapon itself, it's the people using them or wielding them. Now, these Sudanese youths gate crashed a party in Pakenham and bashed and robbed a local white boy.
Oh, niggas drilling him. Oh my days. Oh my days. One shot right there, one shot right there, one shot.
Now, Pakenham, I should say, is in Melbourne's far east. It's one of the final suburbs before you enter the Gippsland region. Now, last week, I brought you some of the disturbing latest crimes and alleged crimes of female perpetrators. There seems to be this epidemic of toxic femininity, these violent women. Now, I brought you the story last week of Lauren Flanagan, 32, who was charged with the murder of her 3-year-old daughter, Sophia Rose, at their property in Bundaberg. Now, she has taken her own life. She was found unresponsive in her cell at the Brisbane Women's Correction Centre. So basically, she's taken the coward's way out. So apparently, she suffered an apparent medical episode. So she will not face justice. For neighbours heard the screams of her little daughter. The father came home from a work trip to the horror of seeing his 3-year-old little girl murdered. So it's just devastating. Now, this week, Victoria Police in the Melbourne suburb of Cranbourne, they charged Zara Baba with possession of explosives, trafficking of an industrial solvent, and stealing a Holden Commodore after a raid on a Cranbourne home where they found 15 kilograms of powerful mining explosives. So this was quite shocking, and I'm sort of thinking, thank God that I don't live in Cranbourne anymore. So she's 26, faced the Frankston Magistrates Court on Thursday, and she has been remanded in custody, thank God. And also, police said on April 25, the owner of the Commodore, one of Miss Barber's former schoolmates, tipped them off to her alleged involvement in a car theft by sending them a video she posted on Snapchat at 4 a.m. Before burnouts. So this is pretty shocking, and it was the second raid in less than a year. So they visited that same property in November. They found more white crystal substance believed to be methamphetamine and an imitation handgun. So she was already facing trafficking charges over the butte found in November raid, and continued to possess the drug. So, well, at least she's off the streets now. We also had lost my We also had over in the Gippsland town of Barnsdale a mass stabbing, where 24-year-old Ebony Pedretti randomly stabbed 4 men on Thursday night. I wonder if she's a relative of David Hollis, of course, the Meadowbank slasher, the former Antifa member who stabbed 6 women at random, killing an innocent woman. This is the 7 News report, which summed up what was pretty terrifying for those who were in Barnsdale at the time.
Good afternoon. A 24-year-old woman is facing court today after allegedly carrying out an erratic stabbing spree in country Victoria that's left 4 men injured. Live now to our reporter Rory Campbell with the details from Melbourne. Rory, good afternoon. The victims were attacked across a number of locations.
Natasha, it was a 15-minute burst of violence that's resulted in serious injuries to one of the victims. A 45-year-old supermarket worker was flown here to Melbourne last night. He's now in a serious but stable condition. This series of attacks happened in Bairnsdale, which is around 3.5 hours east of Melbourne. The first altercation happened around 9:50 last night at the Woolworths, where this worker was stabbed in the stomach. Then across the road in a McDonald's car park, a 21-year-old man was also knifed in the stomach. This woman then allegedly carried on to a nearby pub where she's accused of walking in and stabbing another man in the arm. A 4th victim was struck in the shoulder at Bairnsdale train station, where police moved in and made their arrest. They say the woman was using a short, multi-purpose knife, and while some of those who were hurt did put up a fight, these attacks appear to be unprovoked.
Yeah, just seeing the police out the front, talking to people, showing their cars into the torches into the car here, and ambulance and that over at Woolworths.
An unprovoked attack is very rare. An unprovoked attack with multiple victims is even rarer, and something that I haven't seen locally in Gippsland before. It doesn't appear to be a targeted attack.
The 3 victims who remained in Bairnsdale last night were all treated for minor injuries. A 24-year-old woman has been charged with intentionally causing injury and recklessly causing injury. Natasha?
Rory, thank you.
So that's pretty shocking. And do we know that if she deliberately decided to target and stab men? Now, she refused to appear in court, refused to leave her prison cell. Apparently, she has a history of drug and alcohol abuse, which of course is no defense for stabbing random people. DML says, do you think that many police have dared to go to the government and ask not to have many criminals imported? Well, I don't know, but I know that Victoria Police is very woke. Remember that Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius, aka Fat Bastard, aka Chief Wiggum, took a knee for Black Lives Matter in 2020. He's a massive SJW. So, and of course they have their various community liaison officers. So they're part of the diversity cult. And though certainly the police, they do take action against these youth gangs, but of course it's the magistrates who have all been pretty much all appointed over the past 25 years by various state Labor governments. And so, of course, it's seen to prioritize the rights of the offender more than the victim. Now, up in Alice Springs, we had a young disabled Aboriginal man die in custody after he assaulted 2 security guards when he was confronted for shoplifting at a supermarket. Now, the man's grandfather has demanded an investigation. So of course, you've got some agitators who want to use this incident to try and stir up racial tensions. but thankfully there hasn't been any more unrest due to this man's death. So before the incident at the Coles supermarket, the young man allegedly assaulted a woman at the Commonwealth Bank. Assistant Commissioner Travis West told media at a press conference. Of course, a intellectual or mental disability is no excuse for assaulting people. And the AFL game at Alice Springs yesterday between Melbourne and St Kilda, that proceeded without incident. Though there was another welcome to country because it's Reconciliation Week. So why couldn't the AFL, they have 2 rounds of Sir Doug Nicholls round, the Aboriginal round yet. They don't hold it in conjunction with Reconciliation Week. So we've had in the last 3 weeks 19 welcome to countries. Now, while we've got guns, machetes, knives and fists being used in crime in Victoria, as the Allen government, are they going to ban fists next? Though we're now having the political knives out in the Victorian Liberal Party. Now, John Pesutto, the ex-Liberal leader, has been issued with bankruptcy notices after he has failed to pay Moira Deeming's $2.3 million legal costs. She, of course, successfully won her defamation case against John Pesutto for tarring her with the Nazi brush, and was ordered to pay her $300,000. And when it comes to a defamation trial, that's actually the costs order, which are the most expensive. So John Pesutto, he says that we will come up with the money, even though he's $1.5 million short in the next 21 days, and he wants to remain the Remember for Hawthorn. If he can't come up with the money, then if he's declared bankrupt, he can't hold a seat in Parliament. So there would be a by-election, and the state Liberals would be worried they would lose it. So that's why there's pressure on Brad Batten, the current Liberal leader, to bail him out, or the Liberal Party's fundraising endowment fund, the Cormac Foundation. But that's not the only infighting in the Victorian Liberal Party. So Sam Groff, the deputy to Brad Batten, he has been criticised by fellow Liberal MP Georgie Crozier, who, of course, was the upper house leader for the Liberals under John Pesutto. She claims that Sam Groff misled her for using her taxpayer-funded chauffeured vehicle to drive back from an Australian Open event, which he was charging the taxpayers to because he's the shadow sports minister. Of course, is an ex-tennis professional tennis player himself. So she used his car to ferry him and his wife almost 100 kilometres home, because his seat is Nepean on the Mornington Peninsula after a boozy day at the Australian Open. Sam needs to explain his actions. I can't. And said that Victorians deserve a lot better, and said that she is incredibly disappointed. So he's also charged taxpayers to stay in luxury hotels while attending sporting events, though he is arguing, Sam Groth, that everything was above board and there's nothing to see here. Brad Batten is backing him in. Now, there was another Herald Sun article which said that, quoted an anonymous Liberal, a Victorian Liberal Party MP, who said that they should draft a leader from outside the Parliament to and oust Brad Batten. I don't know who they've got in mind to bring in as leader, but the state election is it's less than 18 months away now, and of course the Allen government is incredibly unpopular at the moment. Jacinta Allen has done a partial back down on the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund levy for farmers, deferring it for a year. There was growing backlash from her regional MPs, so that was a great victory for people power. But Jacinta Allen is probably the greatest asset to her is the Victorian Liberal Party. Well, things aren't going well in the federal Liberal Party. The new Liberal leader, Susan Ley, unveiled her new coalition frontbench last week after getting back together with the Nationals. So they put on that they were back the closest of friends, Susan Ley and Nationals leader David Littleproud, announcing the shadow ministry. Of course, they're reduced to a rump. But of course, what a lot of people were more focused on is who was dumped from the shadow cabinet. So Victorian Liberal Senators Jane Hume and Sarah Henderson were dumped from the ministry completely, not just from shadow cabinet. Jacinta Price, who defected from the Nationals to the Liberals, was demoted from shadow cabinet to the outer ministry, and Indigenous Affairs was given to fellow Indigenous Liberal Senator Kerry-Ann Little, and Jacinta Price was given shadow defence industry and science minister. Claire Chandler, who was in the outer ministry, Senator for Tasmania, was dropped from the outer ministry as well, though she said that she didn't want a position anyway. Now, it's interesting that sort of the Sky News conservatives like Credlin saying that, you know, we should stop being so focused on gender. They're using the fact that that 4 women were removed from 3 were removed from the shadow ministry completely. One still remaining. That she's got less women in her cabinet than Peter Dutton. They're just obviously using that as a stick to beat Susan Ley with. Of course, she rewarded Susan Ley, her numbers people. So Alex Hawke is the manager of opposition business, a well-known factional player in New South Wales. And now Jane Hume, she was probably the most worthy dumping, given that, well, obviously Peter Dutton, he paid as the opposition leader, paid the ultimate price for the failure of his campaign by losing his seat, so he's out of Parliament. But Jane Hume, as a senator, because she was second on the Victorian Liberal ticket, she's been re-elected for another 6 years. She told Natalie Barr on Sunrise that she was hurt because she was such a hard worker and she considered Susan Ley a friend, but then again, it's not the playground. Well, She was as Shadow Finance Minister, announced the disastrous work from home policy that all public servants would be forced back to the office, which was interpreted by the voting public that the Liberal Party was against working from home. And also her comment that Chinese spies were helping the Labor Party on the booths. That was spun by Penny Wong on Chinese social media, that the Liberals believe that Chinese Australians are disloyal. So she had a shocker of a campaign. So she said that she's not going to give up all her media appearances, and well, us Victorians are stuck with her as a Victorian senator for another 6 years. The Liberal and National parties, they are debating whether they're going to keep their commitment to net zero by 2050, despite the New Zealand government, the US government walking away from net zero. Though it was good that new Environment Minister Murray Watt approved the extension of Woodside's Northwest Shelf Gas Project to 2070. So the assessment process had been going on for 6 years, and we still saw that Aboriginal activist Raylene Cooper from Save Our Songlines she's still trying to block the extension, saying that it's going to endanger rock art, even though World Heritage listing has been rejected. And of course, she argues that the songlines will be disturbed of the whales. Of course, that's just made up mystical beliefs, which, I mean, if it was another religion like Christianity, would be it wouldn't be taken seriously by an environment minister. Now, we still have the lower house seat out of the 150 in doubt, and that is the seat of Bradfield, which the recount will probably take another few weeks. So at the moment, the Teal independent Nicolette Bollaert is leading by 28 votes against the Liberal Party's candidate, Gleisi Kasparian, who, if she does manage to win the seat, she was ahead, just ahead when the initial count was completed. She would be a shadow assistant minister. Now, the counting in the seat of Goldstein is completed, though on the partial recount of first preferences, Tim Wilson, his victory margin was reduced from 260 votes to 175. But Zoe Daniel did finally concede. This was the concession statement that she put on her social media with a video attached. When I said before the election that I would fight for every vote, the last month was not what I had in mind. Thank you for the support from inside and outside Goldstein, and to my incredible volunteers who've been scrutinizing day in, day out. It's a long process, and after a recount of about 75% of the votes cast, she's claiming it's not a true recount. There are only a few votes left in 175, which is above the 100 threshold for a recount. Anyway, today we did not win, but we are not defeated. Hard things are hard, and a better kind of politics is worth fighting for. See you in 2028, maybe. And whoever made this fake Trump social post, because of course Zoe Daniel, when she was an ABC journalist, criticized Donald Trump for not accepting the result of the 2020 election. So I saw this posted by Retards Down Under. Zoe Daniel finally concedes defeating Goldstein. She hates me, trash me for not conceding in the 2020 rigged election. Teal dreams crushed by Tim Wilson's huge win. Maybe she'll learn to love winning one day like me. Back to the fake news for Zoe. Hashtag MAGA, hashtag Goldstein. Now, Tim Wilson is in the Shadow Cabinet as Shadow Employment, Industrial Relations and Small Business Minister. Another funny Zoe Daniel recount meme from, I'm not sure if you've ever seen that Simpsons episode where Martin Prince defeats Bart Simpson for class president because none of Bart Simpson supporters vote. But it has, of course, Zoe Daniel as Bart. I demand a recount. And the VC says, 1 for Wilson, 2 for Wilson. Would you like another recount? No. Well, I just want to make sure. 1 for Wilson, 2 for Wilson. So yes, but still some of her supporters aren't conceding. They are sore losers, saying, well, Tim Wilson didn't run he ran a real mean campaign, and it's unjust that he won. Well, clearly if you win a seat, you've won. Like, it's this whole, what is it? Is there a thing called, what is that? Teal win now, where you, even though you lose, you win morally. Now, all of the Senate results for the 6 states and the 2 territories have now been declared. So the makeup of the new Senate is the Labor Party on 28, the Liberal and National Party 27, the Greens 11. The big change is One Nation's, the Senate numbers doubling from 2 to 4, because not only was Malcolm Roberts re-elected in Queensland, but in Western Australia, Tyrone Whitten was elected, in New South Wales, Warwick Stacey. And of course, we hope that they, unlike One Nation senators and state representatives of the past, stay with One Nation for the full 6 years. Warwick Stacey, I saw him in the New South Wales minor party Senate 6 News debate, and he was very, very passionate for Pauline Hanson and One Nation. He's a former hostage negotiator. So Pauline Hanson joked that he'll have to work extra hard on Lydia Thorpe. Now, the reason why now the Labor Party and the Greens, they'll have a working majority. The Labor Party won a 3rd Senate seat in South Australia with the youngest Senator Charlotte Walker, and in Victoria as well with Dr. Michelle Ananda-Rajah, the former Labor member for Higgins, winning 6 more years in the Senate. Another COVID crazy doctor like Dr. Monique Ryan was re-elected in Kooyong. Dr. Ananda-Rajah was in favor of masking 2-year-olds during COVID. Absolutely disgusting. She also owns, I think it's 7 properties. She owns the most properties out of any MP in the federal parliament. Though these numbers, though, have breaking news will change, because Dorinda Cox, the Greens senator for Western Australia, well, she's no longer representing the Greens. She's defected to the Labor Party. So the Labor Party will have 29 and the Greens will have 10. So they've lost 2 senators over the past 3 years through the defection. So Lydia Thorpe crossing to become an independent, to be a progressive no for the Voice. Of course, Labor lost 1, Fatima Payman, their Western Australian senator, founding the Australian Voices Party, which did terribly. Now, Jackie Lambie, of course, defeated Pauline Hanson's daughter, Lee Hanson, for the final Senate spot in Tasmania, though Jackie Lambie has said that's it for her. She's not going to seek re-election in 6 years, so I guess we should get our Jackie Lambie countdown calendars ready. Lee Hanson is going to run again in 3 years, and she's got a good chance against former Jackie Lambie Network Senator Tammy Tyrrell, who's now Tammy Tyrrell for Tasmania, given that she's not as prominent as, well, Jackie Lambie of the Jackie Lambie Network. Lee Hanson, she'll campaign for a full 3 years in Tasmania. She only just joined at the last minute, so she'll have a good chance again in 3 years. Now, we also had the news last week that Magda Szubanski, Australian comedian, has been diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of blood cancer, stage 4 mantle cell pneumonia. And remember, of course, she was incredibly nasty during the COVID lockdowns with some of the things that she was posting on social media. And remember, she fronted that advertising promotion that the sooner we all obey the lockdowns, the sooner this will all be over. That was her justification there, which, of course, anyone who's read a history book will know that that is not what that is the exact opposite way you should exact opposite way you should, because the sooner you obey government, the sooner tyranny will be over. That's never worked out in history. And I remember I wrote an article for the Unshackled.net about Magda Szubanski. She wanted to make a list of no campaigners, seeming to lead to make a list for retribution. So this was published September 23. Big fat sister Magda Szubanski is watching you. Now, these photos of her, they've been photoshopped. I mean, the cricket's scoreboard has been photoshopped on her, but she is that fat, and in obviously the KFC bucket on her head, the KFC bag with her has been photoshopped on, but she is that big. So is the KFC badge, though she did wear the mask there. Hello, Dawn Browning. And she did host a series on the ABC called Magda's Big Health Check. Well, got big bit right. So she said, yes, voters and reasonably undecided, a favor, could you please screen cap document any misinformation, defamation and lies being put about the No campaign accounts they are coming from, just for future reference. Thank muchly. This was her COVID ad here. The sooner we all obey, the sooner this will all be over.
Oh, Sherry, what are you doing? Oh, I can't help it, it's my carpal tunnel. I am subbing you off.
I tell you what, I am so over this lockdown. Playing netball against yourself is not all it's cracked up to be, especially when you still can't even win. But you know what? It's not the lockdown that's the enemy, it's the virus. And the sooner we obey the rules, the sooner this will all be over and we can get back to the stuff that really matters. Nettie. Subbing myself back in now. I know, Sharon, you're hopeless. I am not hopeless. I'm the most valued member of this team.
Authorised by the Victorian Government, Melbourne.
So this was some of Magda Szubanski's lockdown ex-Twitter posts. So given that some people have caught a COVID from fleeting contact, surely the regulations around joggers jogging without mask on should be changed. And as somebody wrote, last time you ran was to the ice cream truck. And then there was another one here. She pondered whether to dob in or not to dob in. That is the question. Middle-aged guy swaggering along, not wearing a mask. I called out, mate, why aren't you wearing a mask? His response, lifted a t-shirt to his bare chest and said to me, and what are you? I got to pick moral dilemma. Should I dob him in? And of course, all of her followers were snitches. And now Magda Szubanski, she, of course, has had all of her boosters. In fact, in November 2022, was begging for another booster to be approved. So quoting some expert that there was no medical reason why someone who wanted to get a 5th dose should not be able to do this if she had if it had been several months since her last booster. And now she denies that she was in favor of mandatory vaccines. So she said, okay, enough, not the conversation I want to have right now. Let me be very clear. I helped out as a good citizen to morale boost during COVID, but I never, ever was an avid supporter of vaccinations, categorically not insist on them for others. Why? Because I'm not a freaking doctor. I've seen this libel repeated several times now. Lazy cut and paste journalism. Please correct. And before you at me explaining what mandatory means, it's not the same as enforcing it. This lie has gone beyond trolls and is now creeping into reports. I won't ignore incorrect information intended to wrap around the narrative and the truth. Though she talked about, what is that, optional but conditions place. That's what so she was basically using weasel words. And of course, then there was her disgusting comments about Jenny Morrison. What's this little hand signal thingy? So accusing Jenny Morrison of making the OK sign, which she interpreted as the white power sign. So apparently Jenny Morrison was deliberately doing it in the presence of Meghan Markle because she's part Black African American. And then there was this disgraceful comment about Jenny Morrison's outfit when Scott Morrison was signing a condolence book for the late Queen Elizabeth II. I generally thought this was a photoshopped Handmaid's Tale meme, but no, it's 21st century Aussie life. Absolutely disgusting. So there's been some who have been alleging that Magda Szubanski, because she would have got every booster that she could possibly get, they're alleging that that the cause of her cancer is all the COVID jabs that she took. Of course, there's no evidence for that. Over at the Nightly, Channel 7's online rag. So the headline is Magda Szubanski, COVID conspiracy theorist target TV star with abhorrent comments after cancer diagnosis. And so that's from her video there. So Rad, she's been quoted or showcased here saying she was asking for a 5th booster in 2022, wonder where she's at now. A vaccine campaigner diagnosed with turbo cancer. Australian National Treasure makes fancy as shared most should be diagnosed with cancer. Dawn Browning says, they filmed Kath and Kim on the court next to us when we lived at Patterson Lakes. Banksy was a big article. Is she dead? Magda's not dead, no. They've actually destroyed the Kath and Kim house now. The new owners, they turned it into a luxury beachfront property. So it got a massive upgrade. Now, did anyone see this article in the Daily Mail? Australia sets grim new world's worst cancer rate as possible reason for the surge in cases are revealed. So, new research from the University of Melbourne unveiled this week revealed that bowel cancer diagnosis more than doubled in Australians below the age of 50 over the last 3 decades. More than 28,000 Aussies aged between 20 and 49 were diagnosed with early onset bowel cancer between 1990 and 2020. Well, this suggested during the same period, there's been an increase in case resulting in an additional 4,347 cases with the early onset condition. So the researchers here, they have said that Professor Mark Jenkins from University of Melbourne's colorectal cancer unit has warned the cause of increasing number of cases remains unclear. So probably the strongest theory at the moment is something to do with the bacteria in our gut, which we call microbiome. They've become more toxic. And they also looked at theories on trends of increasing obesity and decreasing physical activities amongst Australians. Well, certainly lockdown didn't help. Also, blaming the decline in use of aspirins and in childhood, which protects you from cancer, and the presence of microplastics in food. Of course, for us young males now, there's lots of microplastics in our testicles. So, which of course makes those criticizing RFK Jr.'s wanting to get toxic chemicals out of food. There's actually people in the health establishment and in the leftist media are actually opposing him, believe it or not. Now, in Paris, after Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League at the Allianz Arena in Munich, there was rioting in the streets of Paris. Like they won, like the Melbourne Victory supporters lost, and they didn't riot. So basically, the French were like, "You call that a soccer riot? This is a soccer riot." They had more than 400 cars burned, 2 people killed, 192 injured, including 22 police officers and 7 firefighters, 559 people arrested in Paris alone for rioting and looting. So this was one of the iconic images to come out of Paris. And now, football is a religion in France. So the Interior Minister said it was a small minority of fans, and Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, they're called for short, still had their scheduled open bus parade the next day. Now, at the Allianz Arena, PSG supporters unfurled a banner, "Stop Genocide in Gaza." Now, PSG is owned by Qatari Sports Investments, which, of course, Qatar is the country which is harboring a lot of Hamas leaders. I'm not saying that the Qatar Sports Investment gave their fans the banner. Qatar Airways is the shirt sponsor. And of course, Qatar is also the home of Al Jazeera and the sports broadcaster beIN Sports. So sport has become massive soft diplomacy for the Arab Gulf states. So my team, Melbourne City, is owned by the City Football Group, which is owned by the Abu Dhabi Group, part of the United Arab Emirates. Which they've signed the Abraham Accords with Israel, which is why Jonathan Cohen, now Israeli championship winning scorer, has no ethical qualms about signing for us, which was good for us this season. City Football Group obviously owns Manchester City and New York City FC. And Saudi Arabia, which Donald Trump is trying to get to sign the Abraham Accords. They, of course, started Live Golf, and also in soccer have the Saudi Pro League. And, Qatar bought the 2022 FIFA World Cup, and Saudi Arabia is basically bought the 2034 World Cup. Donald Browning says they want to test our poo earlier is all. Yeah, we all remember. Well, they're still testing our poo for COVID, flu, and everything, and polio, and measles, and all sorts of things. And now, of course, there wasn't just damage to the streets of Paris. There was also damage to the French president's face, Emmanuel Macron, being bitch slapped by his wife, Brigitte Macron, or some say husband or father. Now, as you know, I don't believe in that conspiracy, but at the same time, fuck these globalist leaders. That's why I just find it funny when these conspiracy theories are circulated, because remember, these people, they controlled our lives during the COVID years. They have ceded sovereignty. They have invited foreigners en masse to the country. So Emmanuel Macron will be term limited in 2027, but of course the French court banned the leading presidential candidate for the 2027 French presidential election, Marine Le Pen. All right, now let's move on. Speaking of the global news. Now, I don't know if any of you had the misfortune to come across the Glenn Greenwald fetish tape that was published on X. Thankfully, because it is revenge porn, which is now illegal in the United States, as it is in Australia, has been scrubbed from X, though. So thankfully, I don't have to ever come across it again. Though unfortunately, I did have to watch it for journalistic reason, and yeah, it was pretty disgusting. It's all in Portuguese, so I didn't understand a word, but I don't really want to describe it, but yes, it shows that there was $2,000 changing hands between Glenn Greenwald, who's 58 years old, and this young black Brazilian prostitute. He is was born in the United States, but Glenn Greenwald, when he was holidaying in Brazil back in 2005, he met a Brazilian named David Miranda, who was 19 years younger than him, who was a federal deputy in the Brazilian parliament and who died at the age of 37 in 2023 of gastrointestinal disease. And because same-sex marriage is legal in Brazil, he and his husband adopted two Brazilian brothers. So Glenn Greenwald's ex photo is him with his late husband and their two adopted Brazilian sons. Now, Glenn Greenwald is not a conservative or a libertarian. He is a progressive leftist who is, well, he's an old school leftist, I would say, that he, in the same style as George Galloway, who does not trust the government. So that's what the left used to be like, when it came to the Iraq War, the war on terror. But then they flipped, or were basically allowed themselves to be manipulated. Now they're the biggest supporters for the deep state. Glenn Greenwald is part of that old school left who doesn't trust power. And the reason he became popular in the, I would say, conservative circles and libertarian circles, and amongst MAGA supporters who by and large are anti-war, is because, well, he exposed the Russiagate hoax, and he has also been outspoken against the West's involvement in the war in Ukraine. Now, how did this fetish tape get leaked? Now, there was a lot of people who said it was the Mossad because he is a critic of Israel, and it was coincidentally released at the same time as his 2-hour podcast episode with Tucker Carlson, where he talks about the links between the US deep state, the intel agencies, and Israel, and this unwillingness by including the new FBI team, Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, to uncover who Epstein was working for. Dan Bongino now says that he has seen all the evidence, is convinced that Epstein killed himself. Well, that's only one thing we want to know. Now, of course, maybe this tape was released to basically say that, to try and neutralize Glenn Greenwald's campaign to have more information revealed about Jeffrey Epstein, who he worked for, who he was blackmailing, because even though the tape was between two consenting adults, there has been, of course, a lot of social conservatives who want to basically try and recapture the conservative movement for themselves, who basically are saying that Glenn Greenwald now has no credibility, no conservative should be defending him. Charlie Kirk, Matt Gaetz defended him. So did Megyn Kelly. And it's being led by Billboard Chris, who is also a massive Zionist. Now, this is what he posted in. It was in response to Matt Gaetz's post saying that he didn't care of what Glenn Greenwald got up to in his private life. I've got so many ones here. Just bear with me. Here it is here. When we allow darkness to enter, it hurts us. It hurts everyone around us. Then we make excuses to justify the behavior, and more darkness takes hold. It spreads through society like a contagion. And then we get to where we are today, children having body parts cut off, being sterilized and turned into lifelong pharmaceutical patients. Young men with Wilms, they have to dilate for the rest of their lives. This happens because millions express their apathy to evil, turn a blind eye, or worse, they call it care. All this sickness upon our society exists because of this attitude, Matt. We should not excuse evil. And he reshared this post by Live Action founder Lila Rose, who said, sexual ethics matter. What you do in your bedroom does impact other people as well as yourself. A society that says anything goes sexually is a society in free fall. So their argument is that even, it seems to me, even the practice of homosexuality in the privacy of a bedroom, it's a slippery slope. Like, you, because this is how it started. What happens behind closed doors between consenting adults, that's led to, and I've had this debate with groypers and Christian and white nationalists who say, so my argument is, so what, you're going to have the bedroom police? My personal position is the same as Bob Catter's, is that people are entitled to their sexual proclivities. Let 1,000 blossoms bloom, as far as I'm concerned, but I ain't spending any time on it, because in the meantime, governments and paramilitary groups all around the world are murdering, raping, and pillaging people. Now, Billboard Chris is also a Zionist, so he calls in a consensual act between consenting adults evil, but murdering in the name of a cause is okay. Which, because a lot of social conservatives, they felt their influence recede under MAGA, because obviously Donald Trump himself has lived a very quite liberal sex life. I mean, has had 3 wives and cheated on 2. And this is one of one of the points that he made in response to one of the people that criticized him on his locals. Again, I've got so many things open here. So this Andrew Breitbart clip said, I'm trying so hard to see past that video, the demonic eyes and meth pipe. We don't know what was on the table next to him. Somebody else said it was cigarettes and condoms, so at least he's practicing safe sex, I guess. But sort of people see what they want to see in those videos, like people claiming that it was cocaine, a bag of cocaine that Macron was hiding, not a tissue, when it looked like it was clearly a tissue. So Glenn Greenwald said, the point I've made from the start is that the moral and ethical code I believe for my own life is one I am satisfied I'm fulfilling. The fruits of my personal and professional life and the values they represent speaking for themselves. I'm quite proud of them, and I feel no obligation to confine myself to the moral codes others profess to believe in when it comes to private behavior. I know who I am, both in public and private. Those who know me best and those I care about do as well. And I don't feel I owe anyone, let alone someone abstract online commentary, an obligation to explain or justify those personal choices. I'm not running for office. The reason I have a public platform is the journalism that I've done and both my husband and I built together my husband's political career that we built together until it was cut short by his tragic death, the growing community-based projects we created together, the books I've written, the places I've been asked to speak, that what I feel an obligation to account for my personal private life is something I'm proud of, but I don't consider anyone else's business, and certainly not something that should be publicized without my consent. Above all, it's not something I feel any need to justify to others. I'm perfectly content if others disapprove of those choices even strongly, because they are fully aligned with my own moral code. So he believes that he doesn't owe anyone an explanation. Now, we all would have been better off if this video hadn't been leaked and we hadn't known about what Glenn Greenwald gets up to in the bedroom. So Dawn Browning says, I saw the breakdown and I, hypocrite, we can't live with them. Well, the beautiful thing about people having private lives is that they're private. As long as they don't do it in public or in front of children, like we see too much. Like, and this if everyone's private sexual proclivities were exposed, I mean, there'd be a lot of people looking at other people differently. Of course, I'm not saying that I'm one of those. I'm into what Glenn Greenwald's in. I thought that was pretty disgusting. But the thing is about these sorts of fetish and kinks, like what some people like other people find disgusting. Like, I consider myself a sex centrist. Sex is great, but I don't think it's healthy to let it consume your life. I mean, we don't just have a porn industrial complex now, we have a fetish industrial complex as well. But I certainly object to these Puritans, whether they be social conservatives or the TERFs, who just seem to be anti any male sexuality at all. I saw Sal Grover had a go at Glenn Greenwald because he was wearing a woman's lingerette in that video. I thought that all that you're about, Sal Grover, was just wanting not men to invade women's spaces. I mean, Glenn Greenwald was in a private residence, so it wasn't he wasn't presenting himself as a woman in public. Now, obviously, there could be, like, Glenn Greenwald's not going to give us a explanation, but it could be that this is his weird way of grieving with the death of his husband. Now, of course, a lot of people have expressed concern for his two adopted boys, given, well, obviously Glenn Greenwald made it pretty clear this was released without his consent. He didn't want it to be made public. So we don't know whether this was, and this is another thing Billboard Chris asked, were the boys in the next room. We don't know if this was at his house or it was at some other residence, and he's not going to give us an explanation. Now, my personal view is that, given that he is a journalist who has made a lot of enemies over the years, breaking the Snowden NSA story, also publishing about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. He has made a lot of enemies in deep states all around the world. It might not be the Mossad, it might be some other pissed off government with Glenn Greenwald. Might be the Ukrainians, who knows? But like I said, we would all have been better off if this hadn't been made public, but somebody like him should be more careful. And of course, this is what a lot of what these deep state actors do with leaders is sexual blackmail. So it's better if you don't open yourself to be a target, because it's not really worth it, is my view. And of course, deep states, they love compromised politicians. And obviously, when it comes to politicians getting up to their sexual proclivities, that's different if they're doing it in the actual halls of parliament, like that ex-Democrats staffer, Aidan Masasi Sapolsky, who had a anal sex, it was on the receiving end of anal sex from a German diplomat in the Senate committee room. Obviously, that is a place of work. That's not a private residence. And the publishing of that, it wasn't revenge porn. He published that on his alt X account. Thankfully, that went for 7 seconds, not like 4.5 minutes like the Glenn Greenwald one. And now he's actually started a OnlyFans now called the Senate Twink, even though he's got a rapidly aging face. And he now lives in Australia, believe it or not. I certainly hope he is not working for a Labor or Greens staffer, because we've got enough of these staffers in Canberra having gay staffers having sex on the job. We don't need any more. Of course, there should not be the parliamentary prayer room should not be used for men getting down on their knees in that sense. So obviously that's different. And of course, I've reported on Keir Starmer's. Here's these 3 Ukrainian male models who have firebombed his home in North London, former home, and a car. Of course, Keir Starmer doesn't live at his North London home. He lives at 10 Downing Street. Well, before that, he didn't even live there. He lived with Lord Ali, that gay Muslim peer. And this is the other thing about politicians who, if they put their wife and children and claim that they're part of a normal heterosexual family, they're being deceptive to the public and dishonest. And this is what discredited the social conservative movement in the 2000s, which is trying to sort of make a comeback now. Billboard Chris, I believe, is trying to move the Overton window, start with anti-transing children, but he's already moved on to attacking, well, particularly gay male surrogacy, which the TERFs are against surrogacy, period. Now, obviously, it's a separate question about Glenn Greenwald, whether he and his late husband should have been allowed to adopt children. I'm comfortable with it, but that's a separate issue to his private life, because obviously heterosexual parents as well have sex, but thankfully not anywhere near where their children could possibly walk in on. Now, of course, I openly admit that it's the truth that there is more deviant behavior by proportion in the homosexual community than there is in the heterosexual community. A lot of these fetish, like BDSM, leather, pup play, they're dominated by homosexuals. And it also makes you wonder, where it's like, say for example, it is the Mossad who leaked this tape of Glenn Greenwald. Is that why other prominent homosexuals, Douglas Murray and Dave Rubin, are so pro-Israel? Has Israel got footage of them in compromising positions? Of course, Dave Ryan and his husband, they had twin boys through a surrogate as well. Dave Rubin is actually touring Israel at the moment with his Do Not Burn This Book tour. I wonder if he's asking the Mossad, please burn these tapes. Now, in other US news, we've had Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth say that the Trump administration would go to war against China if it invaded Taiwan. Obviously, the justification would be to ensure the shipping lanes through the South China Sea, because the People's Republic of China wants to control it through making these artificial islands in the South China Sea, and also retaking Taiwan, which it believes is part of China as well, which obviously shows that the Trump administration is not isolationist. It does believe that there is no US interest in Russia-Ukraine, though. Now, Ukraine has done a massive drone attack on Russia, so that has escalated again. And Pete Hegseth has said that countries like Australia and the Asia Pacific should increase its defense spending to 3.5% of GDP. Anthony Albanese has said in response, we'll determine our own defense policy, thank you. Anthony Albanese says he doesn't want to put a number of GDP, but if Pete Hegseth, he says that he wants a greater Australian contribution to defence in the Asia Pacific, then obviously he should keep Donald Trump on to deliver the AUKUS nuclear submarines. I mean, that should be a given as well. Then we also had Trump's reciprocal tariffs. There was a temporary halt in the US Court of International Trade. They said that Trump exceeded his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. But then the US Court of Appeals granted a temporary stay, reinstating the tariffs while an appeal happens. So the US Constitution grants Congress, not the president, the primary authority over the trade, but the Congress over time has delegated more power to the president, including for trade and tariffs. So there was a Rand Paul, who of course is a Republican libertarian senator. He said, tariffs are taxes and the power belongs to Congress. Our founders were clear. Tax policy should never rest in the hands of one person. Tariffs not only drive up costs for American families, but also trample on the Constitution. It's time to reassert authority and restore the balance of power. Now, this court ruling didn't affect the 25% aluminium and steel tariffs. So Donald Trump, after he had this court victory, he decided that he would double down on the steel and aluminium tariffs and double it to 50%. And of course, this has been part of Trump's trade war policy this year. So the tariffs just got doubled, and of course, you're messing with businesses and people's livelihoods. And it's interesting now that the Liberal opposition, they fully support the Albanese government now in saying that the imposition of these tariffs are not the actions, conduct of a friend or an act of economic self-harm. Obviously, it didn't help Peter Dutton during the campaign blaming Anthony Albanese for the tariffs when every other country got the same tariffs, and claiming that he could get a better deal and that was interpreted by a lot of voters by saying that he was going to sell Australia out. Now, Elon Musk has also been a critic of the Trump tariffs, and he formally exited the Department of Government Efficiency. and at his press conference at the White House, he had visible black eye, which was he was asked about it by the White House gallery there, and he said that it was because he encouraged his son to hit him. Now, it's interesting that I haven't heard Billboard Chris, I could be wrong, criticize Elon Musk for being an absent father because, well, obviously there's been the high-profile alleged insemination of Ashley St. Clair. We don't having a Musk baby, and he's taking upon himself to basically repopulate the earth through his own seed, sort of a bit like David Koresh. And now children still need a stable mother and father. So throwing a bunch of money at a child and then missing out on one of their parental figures, that's not ethical either. Dawn Browning says a lot of Trump's friends are getting rich with these tariffs. Well, a lot of them aren't as well. And it seems that a lot of the tech bros who backed Trump now having buyer's remorse. Musk he wants to focus on Tesla and obviously SpaceX and X as well. Obviously, the fact that he was the victim of multiple terrorist attacks on his Tesla dealerships, and you had some liberals saying they no longer wanted their Teslas. The New York Times also has alleged that he was on a cocktail of drugs during the presidential campaign. Again, we don't know how truthful the New York Times is, but given that Billboard Chris is he believes that it's a meth pipe next to Glenn Greenwald. Is he expressed any concern about Elon Musk's alleged drug use and the impact that could be on his children as well? Now, there has been, speaking of terrorism, another act of domestic terrorism in the name of the Free Palestine movement. So Egyptian national Mohammed Sabri Solomon, it's not known yet whether he is illegally in the United States, but this was him with his Molotov cocktails there. So he injured 8 Jewish Americans in Boulder, Colorado, who were hosting a commemoration for the victims of October 7, which, of course, was absolutely horrific what occurred there. And, of course, constant subsequent wrongs, killings don't make a right. And we had Benjamin Netanyahu last week saying, because he shouted "Free Palestine," like Elias Rodriguez, who shot that Israeli couple outside the Israeli embassy, said the shouting of "Free Palestine" is the modern Hail Hitler, which is basically saying that if you criticize Israel and express support, sympathy with the Palestinian cause, you're on the side of Hamas, you're on the side of terrorists. And I saw Chris Kenny on Sky News tonight basically say the same thing, which of course is how the neocons always operate. You with us or you with the terrorists? Well, I'm anti-war. I don't want innocents to die. And opinion is divided in Israel over the continuation of the war, because Israel is going to die fighting in Gaza as well. There have already been IDF soldiers who've died, even in friendly fire, and Israel accidentally killed 3 of the hostages. So you get a distorted view from the Zionist media here in the West. Well, Israel's a democracy, so there is clearly there's a lot of political polarization about because there's still about 50 hostages there. We don't know if they're dead or alive. And there's many who believe that Israeli government should pay whatever price they need to. And of course, you have these Zionists who say that, if Hamas just laid down the weapons and gave back the hostages, the war would be over, which basically is sort of like, see what you made us do to the people of Gaza by these missile strikes and blocking of aid. Now, interesting fact, Boulder, Colorado, where this terrorist attack took place, is the same town as where John Benet Ramsey, that child beauty queen, was murdered in 1996. Now, over to the UK. Now, the Liverpool Football Club open bus parade after they won the English Premier League was marred after 70 people were injured when 53-year-old Paul Doyle from the West Derby area of Liverpool drove his car through the crowd, injuring 70 people, and 2 were seriously injured. I think it's a miracle that nobody actually died. Now, he was also drunk and also had drugs in his system as well. Now, I don't know why cars were even allowed to be in the parade route. It was after the parade at 6 p.m. at night. So some of the drunk Liverpool supporters started hitting his car when he started driving, and it's unknown whether he panicked or just had a moment of road rage and just drove through the crowd. But the police were very quick to say that he was white, which a lot of people pointed out is an example of Coulter's law and Coulter's law. You know the ethnicity of the perpetrators. If they don't say the race, then they're not white. If they are white, they will say that they're white. Now, of course, we know that what's worse than the incident itself, which thankfully no one died, you know what's worse than this actual potential mass casualty car event is someone making a joke about it. So Andrew Lawrence, a comedian who I am a big fan of and share a lot of his hilarious videos when his character, Detective Sergeant Peter Pisspot from Twat Valley Police, he said, to be fair, if I was in Liverpool, I'd drive through the crowds of people to get the fuck out of there as well. It's one of those jokes where you're like, oh, it's not sort of the joke that you would make, or maybe some people would make in the back of their head, but would dare not say it in public. I remember there was some quite some, I would say, well, a lot of people would say bad taste jokes, but which some people sort of went, when obviously there was the tragic Manchester arena bombing after a Ariana Grande concert. Some of the jokes that were made, they said it was an explosive performance and that a lot of people had a blast there, which obviously would be insensitive to a lot of the victims. But remember, jokes, they don't have the effect of killing, maiming people a second time. And of course, we have people like Devere Abramovich who, if you make a Jewish joke, it could be a gateway to another Holocaust. And of course, Andy Nolch, by vandalizing Eurydice Dixon's war memorial, he was treated like he was the actual murderer, like he murdered her a second time. Now, Andrew Lawrence, he's had a lot of gigs cancelled already due to his views, so he doesn't give a fuck. and this was his video doubling down on his initial X joke.
So the facts about the Liverpool parade incident have all come out. The Liverpool crackhead off his face on drugs drove into a parade that Liverpool police had done a piss poor job of cordoning off. Some meathead scouser tried to smash the crackhead's back window in, and in a mad panic, this scouse crackhead put his foot on the accelerator and ploughed into some football fans. Clown show of scouse retards from start to finish. That's not a tragedy, is it? That's a farce. A grand total of 2 people were seriously injured, both of whom are going to make a full recovery. And yet a lot of scousers are acting like they've just been through the Holocaust. Because as everyone knows, the one thing Liverpool is absolutely world class at is playing the victim. The other thing about Scousers is that they famously have absolutely no sense of humour about themselves or their city, despite imagining themselves to be the funniest people on God's earth. And yet if you go to Liverpool and make horrible jokes about Manchester, they'll lap it up like flies on hot dog shit, because they're filthy hypocrites. They'll be watching this video absolutely seething, which makes it all the more enjoyable. I posted a bit of gallows humour on X the day after the parade clown show, where I wrote, to be fair, if I was in Liverpool, I'd drive through crowds of people to get the fuck out of there as well. After I posted that, thousands of Scousers descended on my X account in a state of apoplexy, saying, "Why don't you come to Liverpool and say that?" Well, that was the joke, you dipshits. The joke was I don't want to be in Liverpool, but to understand that I guess you'd have to learn to read. Luckily, all these Scousers' comments were of course written down for them, so I didn't have to listen to them screeching in their dirty accents. I mean, it was a pretty mild joke, to be honest. If I was really trying to offend them, I would have written, "It's a shame that Liverpool parade crackhead wasn't driving a tank." Still, I underestimated how thin-skinned and brittle Scousers are. They were absolutely seething and set about trying to get all my live shows cancelled. Difficult for them, given that I've just finished a national tour and I'm not looking to be doing any live gigs again for quite a while. Unlucky you scally bellends. However, due to them leaving thousands of comments and viewing my posts millions of times, my creator income from X this month is going to be enormous. I'm talking about proper money, Liverpool, not what you're getting on universal credit. Nonetheless, I understand you're annoyed at me and you'd want an apology. So here it is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you emotionally incontinent crybabies don't understand what a joke is.
It's good when basically a comedian or public figure who's in trouble for making some colourful or offensive remarks and they say, "I'm sorry for absolutely fucking nothing." That's what you should do, double down. Now, I should fill in our Australian audience that scouser or filthy scouser is a slur word against Liverpool supporters, which of course is like, it can't be considered a form of bigotry given that Liverpool supporters, they come in all different shapes and skin colors and genders and different groups. Now, final bit of news. Now, it was interesting that after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced that the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women would be removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule, saying that it's common sense and it's good science. We're now one step closer to realizing the president's promise to make America healthy again. So he's there with the NIH director, Jay Bhattacharya, and the CDC director, whose name that escapes me. But it was quite the coincidence that we had all of the mainstream media talking about a new scary COVID variant from China, which So this is people have been sharing this around the sensationalist 7 News headline: experts sound the alarm as new COVID-19 strain gains ground. And of course it has the experts, Dr. Bunsen Honeydew from Muppet Labs, and of course his assistant Beaker. Dr. Bunsen Honeydew reminds me of Dr. Fauci, and there was one famous episode where a Muppet episode where Dr. Bunsen Honeydew uses a germ enhancer and then over consumes a Beaker, and it takes him all throughout the theatre. And then Kermit says, "Bunsen, that germ better not be contagious." And Dr. Bunsen Honeydew was like, I think that's how the coronavirus escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology through that type of Muppet Lab experiment. And of course, we've had the local mainstream media here hype up this variant, and they've managed to, of course, get the Federal Health Minister Mark Butler to urge people to get their boosters. So this is from the Daily Mail. So Australians have been warned that falling COVID vaccination rates could pose a risk as a highly new contagious strain of the virus emerges, a variant known as NB1H1. Sounds like a type of pencil. That's basically, remember when you're in school, they were called like HB pencils, and that sounds like a different type of pencil that you'll use. So it's now the dominant strain in Western Australia. So it's already here. So it'll burn out by next week, like all the other variants did. So it quotes Professor Paul Griffin. So the headline is, health experts furious as Aussies avoid getting COVID vaccine. We have dropped the ball. But it's only recommended the COVID jabs for those like over age 75, 85, and those who are autoimmunocompromised. And it's not even compulsory for them anyway. It should never have been compulsory. I mean, if you want to get all your boosters, like Magda Szubanski, Mark Butler got another booster, then go for it. It's just don't force the rest of us. And of course, this Daily Mail article mentions that there's more outbreaks of measles around the West. Globally, in 2023, measles cases rose by 20%. And these same media organizations have sensationalist headlines because the Victorian Health Department lists exposure sites for measles, and the clickbait mainstream media says exposure sites listed for a person carrying highly infectious virus, and you click on that and it's measles, which I've been vaccinated against measles, the MMR vaccine. So I'm not anti-vaccine. Of course, the MMR vaccine went much through rigorous testing than the COVID mRNA vaccines. And just going back to the UK, we know that Keir Starmer, he is basically reacting when it comes to his new rhetoric on stopping mass migration, reacting to the surge of reform in the polls. He now basically considers Nigel Farage the real leader of the opposition. Kemi Badenoch has made the Conservatives irrelevant, as you would expect another DEI leader to do. They have fallen to fourth. The Liberal Democrats under Ed Davey are actually third in the polls now. And there's a lot of nationalists who have been, let's say, underwhelmed by Nigel Farage's manifesto so far, but he did make a promise if Reform wins the next election, not due until 2029, a lot can change from them, that this is what he would do.
If we win the next election, we will scrap net zero, something that is costing the Exchequer an extraordinary £40 billion plus every year. There will be no more asylum hotels or houses of multiple occupancy. People who come here illegally across the channel or on the back of lorries will not be allowed to stay. We will scrap the DEI agenda, which is costing the taxpayer up to £7 billion a year throughout the public sector.
Well, I sure hope he delivers on that. That's it for Tim's News Explosion for another week. Thank you so much for your company tonight. I'll be back this Thursday for another Wilms Front episode, 7 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilms Front channels. Make sure that if you aren't, you're subscribed wherever you watch or watch the replay. Click the bell to allow for notifications. Leave a comment below. Share. Get the word out. It all helps with the algorithm. So my guest will be Paul Moder, who is the host of the WASP files on the Port Arthur massacre. He believes that Martin Bryant, the man who pled guilty to the murder of the 35 people at the Port Arthur massacre on March 28, 1996, he believes that Martin Bryant didn't act alone. So I'll be exploring, asking him his theories, and for the record, I don't believe that conspiracy theory, but I certainly believe that we should have these discussions, because how else the way that the history is solidified is by testing alternative theories. That way historical facts become facts is by having them being robustly challenged. I certainly don't believe it's disrespectful to the victims, because if there was something other than the official story, then they also deserve the truth as well. Now, as I mentioned, I want to get some more equipment in the end of financial year sales. So if you can help out by supporting Unshackled Productions, including Tim's News Explosion, Wilms Front, and of course reports from Tiger Mountain. There'll be another fresh report from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft later this week. Of course, Paul Moder is a director like Richard Wollstonecroft. They've been friends for years. So you can support us via a premium membership on the unshackled.net, where all our news articles are published. So the unshackled.net/membership, bronze $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, platinum $50 per month, bronze $50 per month, silver $100 per year, gold $250 per year, platinum $500 per year. Or you can support us over on Substack at the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe. And you can have monthly $5 per month, annual $50 per year, founding member $500 per year, or you can subscribe for free, because I send out email alerts for upcoming Unshackled productions through Substack, as I do on all my social media channels, such as predominantly Telegram, Gab, X, and Facebook. So thank you so much for your company again. And I will see you all on Thursday for Wilms Front. Until then, stay safe, stay sane, stay optimistic, and certainly make sure that you always search behind the headlines. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.